On a Tuesday morning in the summer of 79 AD, a man buys fresh bread. A woman complains about yesterday's stew. A gladiator prepares for training. A priest offers wine to the gods, expecting another ordinary day. Around them, Pompeii is alive with noise, trade, laughter, and routine. Nearly 20,000 people are going about their lives exactly as they did yesterday. But in just a few hours, every one of them will look toward the mountain they have trusted their entire lives and realize they were never safe. This is not the story of Pompeii's destruction. It is the story of its last normal morning. And before this video ends, ask yourself one question. If you had lived in Pompeii that day, would you have escaped? Or stayed behind, like thousands of others? It is still dark over the Bay of Naples. The sun will not rise for another 2 hours, yet Pompeii is already awake. Many people imagine the ancient world as slow and quiet, but a Roman city was anything but peaceful. Long before dawn, workers, merchants, servants, and slaves were already beginning another day. At the heart of this machine were the enslaved people who kept everything running. Nearly a third of Pompeii's population lived in bondage. They lit fires, carried supplies, cleaned homes, opened workshops, and prepared the city for the thousands who would soon fill its streets. One of the first sounds of the morning was water. Fresh water flowed continuously through public fountains, supplied by an aqueduct stretching more than 40 kilometers across the countryside. In much of the ancient world, people carried water from wells by hand. But Pompeii offered something remarkable, running water available on nearly every major street. To the Romans, that constant sound was more than convenience. It was civilization itself. Not far away, another essential part of daily life was already in motion: the bakeries. Pompeii had 35 bakeries, serving a population of roughly 20,000 people. That might sound excessive until you realize that most Romans rarely cooked at home. Many apartments had no kitchens at all. Instead, people purchased prepared food from local businesses every day. Inside one bakery, a donkey slowly circles a massive volcanic stone mill. Round and round it walks, turning grain into flour. The animal has done this countless times before. Today feels no different. Workers knead dough by torchlight. Fires burn inside ovens. Fresh loaves begin to take shape. What makes this scene extraordinary is that archaeologists later discovered many of these very loaves. Carbonized by volcanic heat yet preserved for nearly 2,000 years, they remain one of the most haunting reminders of Pompeii's final day. Someone baked them expecting customers. Someone expected to return home that evening. They never did. By 7 o'clock, the city is fully awake. The streets are crowded, noisy, and energetic. Merchants open their shops. Customers negotiate prices. Cartwheels rumble across stone roads worn smooth by generations of traffic. If you walked through Pompeii this morning, one detail would immediately catch your attention. Large stepping stones cross many streets. These were not decorative. They allowed pedestrians to cross without stepping into the water and waste flowing through the roadways below. Even more impressively, the stones were spaced perfectly, so cartwheels could pass between them. It was practical urban planning, designed nearly 2,000 years ago. Along the main streets, everyday life unfolds in countless small scenes. A barber trims a customer's beard while sitting on a simple stool near the pavement. A shopkeeper arranges goods outside his doorway. Children weave through the crowd. Friends stop to exchange gossip before continuing to work. And then there are the Thermopolia. These were the fast food restaurants of the Roman world. Large ceramic containers built into stone counters held hot food ready to serve. Lentils, meat stews, vegetables, fish, and countless local recipes were sold to customers looking for a quick meal. When archaeologists examined some of these containers, they found traces of duck, pork, fish, snails, and beef. The menu may be ancient, but the idea feels surprisingly modern. People rushing to work have always wanted something fast and convenient to eat. Money changes hands constantly throughout the city. Small coins pay for bread, wine, and snacks. Larger transactions occur in markets and warehouses. Pompeii's economy functions with a sophistication that would feel familiar to many modern visitors. Yet perhaps the most fascinating voices of Pompeii are not found in its markets or homes. They are found on its walls. More than 11,000 pieces of graffiti have been discovered throughout the city. Political advertisements, love letters, business promotions, jokes, insults, arguments. One man named Successus publicly declared his love for a barmaid named Iris. Someone else replied that Iris did not care about him. Successus answered back. The conversation is still preserved nearly 2 millennia later. Social media did not exist. Human nature certainly did. If you're enjoying this journey through ancient Pompeii so far, take a moment to tell us in the comments, what part of Roman daily life surprises you the most? And if you love history brought back to life through real archaeological discoveries, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us create more stories like this and explore the ancient world together. Elsewhere in the city, another group is beginning its day, the gladiators. Popular culture often portrays gladiators as doomed victims forced into endless bloodshed. The reality was more complicated. The most successful gladiators were celebrities. They earned money, attracted admirers, and built loyal fan bases. Inside the training grounds near Pompeii's theater, men practice techniques they have repeated hundreds of times. Their movements are disciplined and professional. This is less a scene of chaos and more a scene of athletic preparation. Across town, wealthy families are beginning their morning routines as well. Behind elegant walls lie beautiful Roman homes centered around open courtyards, fountains, and gardens. Sunlight pours inward, water reflects against polished stone. Servants move quietly through hallways, preparing for another day. Women arrange their hair using bronze pins and mirrors. Letters are read, business matters are discussed, visitors arrive. At the entrance to one famous house, a mosaic set into the floor warns guests with a simple message: beware of the dog. The sign remains there today. 2,000 years have passed, empires have risen and fallen, yet that warning still greets visitors exactly where Roman eyes once read it. As the morning continues, Pompeii appears prosperous, confident, and secure. Trade flourishes, politics thrives, religion, business, entertainment, and daily life blend together seamlessly. To everyone living here, this feels like another ordinary day in a successful Roman city. And that is precisely what makes this story so tragic. Because while Pompeii enjoys one final perfect morning, the mountain watching over it has already begun to change. The warning signs are there. Almost nobody understands them, and soon the city will discover just how dangerous normal can be. For centuries, Mount Vesuvius had been part of the landscape. Children grew up looking at it. Farmers worked beneath it. Merchants traveled past it every day. The mountain was so familiar that most people barely noticed it anymore. And that familiarity would become one of Pompeii's greatest dangers. As late morning approached on August 24th, strange things were happening across the region. Not dramatic enough to trigger panic, not obvious enough to force evacuation, but unusual enough that in hindsight they seem impossible to ignore. The first warning came from the water. Wells that had supplied families for generations were beginning to dry up. Public fountains that normally flowed day and night were becoming unreliable. In some parts of the city, water simply stopped arriving. Today, volcanologists know exactly what this can mean. Rising magma beneath the surface can disrupt underground water systems long before an eruption occurs. But the people of Pompeii had no such knowledge. To them, a dry fountain was an inconvenience, not a warning of catastrophe. A woman arriving with a clay jar might stare at the empty spout and assume the aqueduct needed repairs. Someone would fix it soon. Life would continue. That assumption sounds foolish now, but would we have reacted differently? If your water stopped working tomorrow morning, would you immediately conclude that a volcano was about to destroy your city? Probably not. The second warning came from the ground itself. New cracks appeared in roads, courtyards, and walls. Small tremors rattled dishes and shook furniture. The earth beneath Pompeii was moving. Yet even this failed to create widespread alarm. There was a reason for that. 17 years earlier, in 62 AD, a powerful earthquake had struck the region. Buildings collapsed, repairs lasted for years. Many structures in Pompeii were still being restored on the morning of August 24th. The residents had survived that disaster. So when another tremor shook the city, most people reached a simple conclusion. We've seen this before. It will pass. Human beings are remarkably good at convincing themselves that tomorrow will look like yesterday. Psychologists call this normalcy bias, the tendency to underestimate danger because life has continued normally in the past. The people of Pompeii were not irrational. They were human. Then the animals began to react. Horses became restless and refused their feed. Dogs behaved strangely. Livestock grew agitated. Around the world, similar behavior has been documented before earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Animals can detect changes that humans cannot perceive. But perhaps the most striking sign came shortly before midday. The birds left. Hundreds of them rose from rooftops, temples, and public buildings. Pigeons, sparrows, crows, entire flocks suddenly took flight. Not randomly. Not in panic. They moved with purpose, away from the mountain. And they did not return. Imagine standing in the forum and watching every bird in the city abandon its home at the same moment. Some people noticed. Some felt uneasy. A few may even have considered leaving. But most simply returned to their daily routines. The market remained open. The bakeries continued selling bread. Merchants negotiated prices. Children attended lessons. Life went on. Yet not everyone felt comfortable. Somewhere in Pompeii, an elderly woman may have watched the dry wells, the nervous animals, the cracked earth, and the departing birds. Perhaps she sensed that something was terribly wrong. Perhaps she prayed. But even she could not have imagined what was coming. Because beneath Vesuvius, pressure had been building for centuries. And in only a few more hours, the mountain that had always been there would stop being a mountain. It was approaching 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The city was still alive. The streets were still crowded. The future still seemed certain. Then Vesuvius opened. It is approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon. For most of Pompeii, the day is proceeding exactly as expected. Merchants are working, families are eating, children are studying. And then everything changes. Without warning, the summit of Mount Vesuvius ruptures. Deep beneath the mountain, pressure that has been building for centuries finally breaks through the rock above it. The eruption begins with astonishing force. A massive column of ash, gas, and volcanic debris blasts upward into the sky. Within minutes, it climbs more than 20 kilometers above the earth. People across the Bay of Naples stop what they are doing and stare upward. What they see is unlike anything most of them have ever witnessed. Far across the water, Pliny the Younger later describes the cloud as resembling a giant pine tree rising high into the atmosphere before spreading outward into enormous branches. The mountain is no longer a mountain. It has become a force of nature on a scale almost impossible to comprehend. At first, the danger does not seem immediate. The first material to reach Pompeii is pumice, small, lightweight volcanic stones falling from the sky like strange gray hail. People step outside and watch them land. Some are frightened, others are confused. A few immediately understand that staying is a terrible idea. These are the people who survive. They gather their families. They wrap cloth around their heads. They take whatever valuables they can carry and head toward the city gates. Many never look back. History rarely remembers them because they lived. Instead, history remembers those who stayed. Hour after hour, the pumice continues to fall. What begins as scattered stones becomes a relentless storm. The streets slowly disappear beneath layers of volcanic debris. 15 centimeters, 30 centimeters, a meter. The city is being buried alive. As the afternoon turns to evening, conditions become increasingly desperate. Walking through the streets grows difficult, then nearly impossible. Roofs begin collapsing under the growing weight of accumulated pumice. Entire buildings fail without warning. Families trying to flee find pathways blocked. Others decide to remain inside their homes. Their reasoning is understandable. Outside, stones are falling from the sky. Darkness is spreading. Buildings are collapsing. A sturdy Roman house may seem safer than the streets. For a while, many of those shelters actually work. But there is one terrible fact nobody understands. The eruption is only beginning. By nightfall, Pompeii is trapped beneath an artificial darkness, unlike anything its residents have ever experienced. This is not ordinary night. This is not a storm cloud. The ash overhead is so thick that even torches illuminate only tiny circles of visibility. Beyond that small pool of light, there is nothing. No stars. No moon. Only darkness. Somewhere in the city, people are praying. Others are desperately gathering possessions. Parents are comforting frightened children. Neighbors are making decisions they believe will keep them alive until morning. Many of those decisions are completely reasonable, and many of those people are already doomed. Across the bay, Pliny the Elder sails toward the eruption, driven by curiosity and duty. Behind him, thousands are trying to escape. Ahead of him, one of the deadliest phases of the disaster is preparing to begin. Because sometime after midnight, the towering eruption column starts to collapse. The material that had been rising into the atmosphere now has only one direction left to go: down. And racing toward Pompeii is something far worse than falling ash, something no wall can stop, something no human being can outrun. By dawn, the fate of Pompeii will be sealed forever. Sometime before dawn on August 25th, the eruption enters its final and most deadly phase. The towering column above Vesuvius begins to collapse. For hours, ash and pumice have been blasted upward into the sky, but now gravity takes over. The enormous cloud can no longer support its own weight. Everything falls. Not straight down, outward, across the landscape, toward Pompeii. What follows is a pyroclastic surge, a superheated avalanche of gas, ash, and volcanic debris moving faster than any human being could possibly run. The people sheltering inside homes never have a chance. The people trapped in streets never have a chance. The people waiting for daylight never have a chance. Within moments, Pompeii ceases to exist as a living city. And then something extraordinary happens. The same volcanic material that destroys Pompeii also preserves it. Layer after layer of ash seals the city from the outside world. Buildings disappear beneath meters of volcanic deposits. Streets vanish. Gardens vanish. Entire neighborhoods vanish. The city becomes a hidden time capsule buried beneath the earth. Years pass, then decades, then centuries. The Roman Empire rises and falls. Kings come and go. Languages change. Generations are born and forgotten. And beneath all of it, Pompeii waits. Almost 1,700 years later, people begin uncovering strange remains beneath the ground. When systematic excavations start in the 18th century, archaeologists expect ruins. Broken walls, collapsed buildings, fragments of a lost civilization. Instead, they discover something astonishing. A city frozen in the middle of ordinary life. Rooms still contain furniture. Shops still contain merchandise. Frescoes still glow with vibrant colors. Graffiti still covers the walls. The stepping stones remain exactly where Roman feet crossed them. Even carbonized loaves of bread survive inside bakery ovens. It feels less like discovering ancient history and more like interrupting it. Then, in 1863, an Italian archaeologist named Giuseppe Fiorelli makes a remarkable observation. While excavating, workers repeatedly encounter hollow spaces inside the hardened volcanic deposits. Fiorelli realizes these cavities are not random. They are the spaces left behind after human bodies decomposed. His solution is simple but brilliant. He pours liquid plaster into the cavities. When the plaster hardens and the surrounding ash is removed, something incredible emerges. Not skeletons, not bones. People. Captured in the exact positions of their final moments. The folds of clothing, the shape of hands, the posture of someone trying to protect a loved one, the outline of a person who simply lay down and waited. These casts are not famous because they are shocking. They are famous because they feel familiar. Every figure reminds us that these were not historical characters. They were ordinary people. People who expected tomorrow to arrive. People with plans, routines, worries, and dreams. If you've ever visited Pompeii, or if it's a place you'd love to see one day, let us know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this journey through one of history's most remarkable archaeological discoveries, don't forget to subscribe. Every subscription helps us bring more lost worlds back to life and explore the stories hidden beneath the dust of history. Because Pompeii is no longer just a tragedy. It has become something else. A message preserved across 2,000 years. A city waiting patiently beneath the ashes. And in those silent streets, one final lesson still remains. Today, Pompeii receives millions of visitors every year. They walk the same streets. They read the same graffiti. They stand in homes where Roman families once shared meals and planned their futures. And that is what makes Pompeii so powerful. The people who lived here do not feel distant. They argued about politics. They worried about money. They loved their pets. They bought food on the way home. They sent their children to school. In many ways, they were exactly like us. Mount Vesuvius still stands over the Bay of Naples today. It has erupted many times since 79 AD, and nearly 3 million people still live within its danger zone. Why? Because the land is fertile. Because the region is beautiful. Because it is home. The residents living beneath Vesuvius today are making the same calculation Pompeii's people once made. The danger is real, but it probably won't happen during my lifetime. Most of the time, that calculation is correct, until one day it isn't. And that may be Pompeii's greatest lesson. History is not about strangers from a distant world. It is about ordinary people living ordinary lives, right up until the moment everything changes. Pompeii was not destroyed on a day that felt extraordinary. It was destroyed on a day that felt completely normal. That is why its story still resonates 2,000 years later. The people of Pompeii were not legends or distant figures from a forgotten age. They were parents, workers, merchants, students, and dreamers. They expected tomorrow. And through the ashes, they left behind one of the most remarkable windows into human history ever discovered. If you enjoyed this journey into the final day of Pompeii, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that bring the ancient world back to life. Until next time, thank you for watching. And remember, history is not about other people. It's about people just like us.